Going live, and we are live. Okay. Everybody that is in the chat, hopefully you will be kind enough to let us know if our audio is coming in okay, both of us. Because we think each other's audio is fine, but it's different for the audience. So just feel free to give any feedback, and of course. It's been ages since anyone has seen me on YouTube, at least on my own channel. So hi, I'm back. And I brought with me a wonderful human being who I have been meaning to do this live stream with for a little while. Please welcome Autumn.
Hello. Okay, before we start, I want to do my tradition. Do you want to pick the color of my background? Because I have background.
Let's do pink since we're already so pink today.
Okay. I think this is the pink. It's more purple. Is that pink?
It's pinkish.
It's the pinkest one I have. The other one doesn't show up enough.
Yeah. Well, then leave that pink. That pink's fine. All right. It's Wednesday and we're wearing pink. Duh. Okay. So Autumn, tell the handful of ignorant people in my audience who may not already know you about your channel.
Okay, so I'm Autumn. I run a YouTube channel called Notes from Autumn, and I talk about religion and beliefs through the lens mostly of psychology, but I have a degree in human development, so that entails biology and sociology as well. So I don't know. It's like I just like to use different sciences to examine beliefs.
I was introduced to Autumn's channel through an awesome video that she has on her channel that was about sort of like a comparison between the like angry atheist type and the more like a softer approach, and it was really interesting, and I was immediately totally into her style and into her approach. So if you guys are not subscribed to Autumn, you absolutely should be, and you should definitely check out her channel. But before you head over there, boy oh boy, do we have some interesting things to discuss today on the channel. So
I know, I'm excited.
So I think it was over a month ago now. I was tagged on Twitter by someone who is an ex-Mormon missionary, and they said that they got out of Mormonism because of something called Raelism. And they sent me the link to the to the official Rael website. And as soon as I saw it, I knew, oh, this is totally going to be a video. Absolutely. And let me just show you what that website looks like. That's the home page. That's the home page.
Oh man.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff to go through. I have done a little bit of research now on not only Raelianism, whatever, but also on the guy who created it. His name is Rael, at least that's what it is now, according to his Wikipedia page. He was born Claude Maurice Marcel Vorelhan. No, I can't pronounce that. But I found out some very interesting things about him. He used to be a pop singer, a French pop singer. He's also a race car driver, and a journalist. And he hitchhiked from his hometown to France when he was like 15.
So a colorful background.
Yep.
Very interesting.
And he was born in 1946, but he's had 3 wives, and his 3rd wife he married when she was 16.
So like classic cult leader stuff, yeah? Lots of wives, particularly young wives.
Mm-hmm. And we haven't even
pattern here.
We haven't even gotten to the actual beliefs yet. It's already like interesting guy. Okay.
Yeah. And definitely with the pop star thing, it's like, first you were a pop star, then you started a religion. Maybe you need a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely get that vibe from him. And this is like what the guy goes around looking like. But he's just, he's just like some white dude. Like he's trying to give off this Bible character type of look.
Yeah, I could see that.
And it's, I don't know, there's something very phony about that to me. So
did you ask this person who told you they got into it, they left Mormonism for Raelism, did you ask them like how they kind of came to this conclusion that this was the true religion for them, or did you just kind of look into the religion more?
I didn't really interact with that person because to be honest, I didn't want to make fun of them. And I kind of knew that I, like, knowing myself and knowing my own immediate reaction to what this website showed me and everything, I was like, I don't want to be condescending to this person.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to make fun of them. I just get so curious. Like, my curiosity would, I feel like I would have to ask them how they came to this conclusion, because I can't avoid these discussions. Like, I think there's a respectful way that you could ask people.
And there is, don't get me wrong. It's not like I don't know how to have those kinds of conversations. I was just so immediately blown away by how absolutely ridiculous this seems. Like, just on its face, absolutely ridiculous, that I kind of felt like I needed to take a step back before having that conversation, because this is some very interesting stuff. So basically, our friend here believes that he was abducted by aliens, and the aliens are responsible for creating the human race and all other life on Earth. So it's basically intelligent design for atheists. And interestingly, he grew up in a home where at least 2 of his relatives were atheists. So it's not super surprising. But he also went to Catholic school. So he was exposed to religion, but he also had some family that were like staunch atheists.
Interesting. So can you call that atheist because I know that technically believing in aliens isn't believing in gods. But to me, it seems so similar. I almost wouldn't want to. I mean, people can identify however they choose, right? So they can call themselves an atheist. But for me, it doesn't really fit, because atheist would be like no intelligent designer, whether you call that intelligent designer an alien or a god. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I would tend to think that too. It's like, if you're worshiping an alien, then does it really matter if you would consider that alien a deity, if it still involves that level of like worship? But that's another matter. Exactly how we want to classify it is another matter. But yeah, so he was supposedly abducted by aliens, and these aliens populated the Earth. There's a lot of interesting stuff with him. He's written a couple of books. He's written a few books. And realism has some interesting beliefs. They actually have quite a few progressive beliefs that I can kind of get on board with.
Okay.
Like, let me get to the more interesting stuff. They have a strict ethical code. They respect culture and racial differences, promote nonviolence, blah, blah, blah. And I can get behind that. They're also apparently very strongly... Where is this part of it? Bum, bum, bum. I know that there is... Okay, they have a lot of activism. Topless rights of women is apparently a big one.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, free the nipples. I'm all about that. Totally.
I go without wearing a bra whenever I can get away with it. When people are not going to think that it's like rude, like if I am clocking in at work, then if it's not baggy enough, then I'll wear one. But I'm not wearing one right now, so I'm all for that.
Woo. Yeah, I definitely get that. It's like there's definitely some things that I can agree with them on, but it's like no matter how progressive your cult is, if it's still a cult, that's still bad.
Yeah.
And that was actually something I had a conversation about with one of my friends the other day, actually. Was she said something about like starting a cult herself, and I was like, yeah, haha. And she's like, yeah, but what if I use it only for good? And I'm like, yeah, but the amount of just the amount of control you have to have over other people to have a cult, no matter what it is you're asking them to do, it's
Yeah.
bad that you even have that level of control.
Because it at the core of it, it's manipulation and information control. So you wouldn't. It's like rather than starting a cult that might benefit people, why not just teach them critical thinking skills
Mm-hmm.
to kind
Right.
of come to good conclusions and promote good behavior on their own, you know?
Right. So what I really wanted to get into today, more than the structure of the religion itself, if you go to their website, they actually have a free PDF of his like biggest like book, Intelligent Design: Message from the Designers. So this is his book that is sort of like the basis for this religion. And where the hell? Okay, there we go. If you see in the contents here, it starts off very interesting. Like the encounter, the truth. And it is and according to what I've read already, it is a his belief is that these aliens have sent messengers before to Earth, including Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, etc., etc. But the message always ended up getting distorted somehow, right?
Okay, so that sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but that seems similar to like Islam or Mormonism because it's always some leader who says like, yeah, these past figures were like sort of right, but the truth got distorted and I have the most latest and accurate revelation. Like Muhammad said that. I'm pretty sure Joseph Smith said that.
mm-hmm,
And they always refer to these like they like name drop these big characters like Moses and Jesus and John the Baptist and they're like I talk with these guys. So that it's interesting that it's always like there's always this same pattern with cults and religions, or not always, but a lot of the time, where it's like they kind of take from concepts that people are already familiar with or maybe attached to, and then they just make it more spectacular and new or something, you know?
See, this is why I'm glad that you're on the stream, because you can articulate those thoughts so clearly. And I cannot on the spot. So
you're just nice is what it is, but
seriously, like your input like you just gave is exactly the kind of thing I wanted you here for. That is succinct to the point. And yeah, I agree. I think that it's a lot easier to get people to believe something that sounds kind of out there if you're name dropping more widely accepted spiritual religious leaders. It just makes it all seem a little bit more credible because it's like, oh, there's actually some core hidden truth in all these different teachings that so many different people believe.
Yeah, familiar means safe, right? So, well, to our brains, you know, like at first sight, and then that's not always the case, but like familiar often does feel safe. That's why like Coca-Cola got so big, right? They just advertised the shit out of themselves, and people are like, "Oh, this is good to drink. It's a nice treat," you know. And turns out if you drink a little too much, you get diabetes. And so
yeah. Well, I mean, and yeah, and like I said, they also have some ideas that they teach that are more progressive, that are more like, but it's like no matter how good the things you teach are, if you claim that the reason you teach that is because of something that's BS, it doesn't make the BS any more credible. It's still BS. Just because it led you to something good doesn't make it true. Okay, so yeah, there is so much to unpack here. Just so much to unpack here.
Good.
man, so I'm gonna skip a little bit, especially the forward. It's like his reinterpretation of what the hell? Oh, no, nope, nope. I'm messing this up. Book 1, The Encounter. Fascinating. The Encounter. Yeah, so basically he goes to see a volcano in 73, and he supposedly has uh an extraterrestrial uh abduction. And I feel like we don't need to get super, I feel like the specifics of his alien encounter are not important. It's like, oh, he wore a green one-piece suit. Yeah, it's like I don't care about that, because lots of people have seen lots of things. The alien does speak French to him, though, and that's interesting, I guess. It speaks French to him because he's
French is
French.
not something that I've ever heard tied to the origins of a religion, so that's neat.
Yeah, he speaks French. That is also interesting. So this is the reason that he's supposedly been chosen. First of all, we needed someone in a country where new ideas are welcomed, where it's possible to talk about such ideas openly. I guess France counts as that. There are definitely worse places you could have chosen someone from. Democracy was born in France. I guess that's kind of true. Blah blah blah. Kind of, sorta. Intelligent, of course. Someone who's a free thinker without being anti-religious. So naturally, his own upbringing of having been exposed to religion but not being religious, But still, there isn't a whole lot that is interesting about him that would make him. Yeah, they did say they needed to choose someone who was born between the first atomic explosion and or born after the first atomic explosion. They don't explain why, but apparently that's a reason.
Maybe that's something that makes him feel special, like just thinking about like what's going on in his head. I always have to think about what's going on in the head of the person that's either created the religion or that believes in the religion. That's where my mind goes automatically, So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say it there whenever I'm reading something like this, the thing that is always constantly like a repeated question in my mind is just, do they know that they're spouting BS, or are they genuinely convinced, or is it somewhere in between?
Yeah, where they like convince themselves, because that's what I've heard about compulsive liars. Like, I haven't done any research on it, so this is just anecdotal at this point, but and it's anecdotal anyways because you're hearing it from me, but I've heard that compulsive liars actually end up believing their own lies. Like, I don't know if it's after some repetition, because it's almost like false memories they implant their own false memories maybe, but I've heard that that's the case. And I mean, you and I both come from religious backgrounds, and I feel like there's a pressure to interpret things in a certain way because of your environment, because of people rewarding you for that behavior. But then, like, I know that I would say like 90% of the time or more, I like truly believed that my spiritual interpretation of things was the truth. Like, it wasn't like I would say it and then believe it after repetition. It was like,
you kind of believed it the first time, and the more you said it, the more you believed it.
Well, like growing up in the religion, it didn't even take repetition after.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, because when you're that young starting to hear those things, it's just kind of like, yeah, of course that's true. You don't need to repeat it to make that true in your head. Yeah.
Yeah, I could talk about one experience that I remember where I think things kind of progressed in that way. So
Mm-hmm.
I had a dream as a kid, and when I woke up in the morning, I told my mom about it. I was like, "Hey, mom, I had this dream. I think it was from God," and it was just I think it was from God. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and she was all ears, right? She wanted to hear about it. So I explained the dream to her, and she was like, was there any words or things that you didn't understand in the dream that you want me to like help you understand? Because she was like really into it. And I was like, yeah, actually, like God said Emmanuel, and I don't know what that means. Which is true. Like I was a kid and I didn't know what it meant. And my mom's like, oh, that means God is with you. And so I was like, wow, it must be from God, because there was even a word that I didn't even understand without my mom helping me. So like this must have been a dream from God. And then after I had that interaction with my mom, whenever I talked about that dream later on, I was like that much more certain that like God had spoken to me in this dream, and like very articulate about everything that had happened. But when I originally woke up and told my mom about it, I was just trying to make sense of it. And it was actually the conversation afterwards that like solidified that belief for me, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I've had similar experiences as a religious kid. Not quite that like strong of an experience, but I think I've had similar stuff to that. And yeah, it's kind of like when you sit down and say, well, what does this mean? When you try to when you're looking to assign meaning to something that doesn't necessarily have meaning, you find stuff. You
Yeah.
find stuff, and usually it's stuff that already agrees with what you already believe.
Yeah.
So now our man Rael is going to go and reinterpret some of the Bible.
Of course.
So he takes, the biblical term Elohim, as in those who come from the sky. Apparently, it's plural. This is from his book. I actually didn't do research on the word Elohim, and I probably should have outside of this context, just to see how much of that he was kind of fudging, or if that's like actually true. But either way, he takes the term Elohim that supposedly means like those from the sky, and he's like, okay, so when it says in the Bible that Elohim created the heaven and earth and all of that, then guess what? That means that it's people from the sky. Like, that seems to be his interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, of course, the passage uses the word created, he immediately goes, they created or actually discovered. And it's like, okay, so you're just putting your own words on that. Like, very blatantly, that's not what it says, but okay.
Do we think any of this was like drugs? Like, do you think this guy
I
was
didn't
like,
find anything drug related when I was looking him up.
yeah, it just seems like to think that you had an alien encounter. It would, I mean, it doesn't have to be induced by like psychedelics, but it sounds like something that would be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I looked for that and I didn't see it, but it didn't see anything that would indicate that might not be part of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So he takes the spirit of Elohim moved across the face of the waters. This means the scientists made reconnaissance flights. What a fucking leap.
Can you say that again? I don't even understand what that was.
So he takes the verse, Genesis 1:2, the spirit of God moving across the waters, and says, so this actually means the scientists were making reconnaissance flights across the earth, and what you might call artificial satellites were placed around the earth to study it.
All right.
And it's like, it's so clear to me from his explanations that he had to have gone into reading the Bible with, like, actually, this is all aliens, to come up with these explanations, because that's clearly not in the text at all. And it's like, I've seen cherry picking and reinterpreting, you know, as a Jehovah's Witness, I've seen plenty of that. But to this degree, like this obvious degree of you have to have come into it with your own idea of what's going on here to have interpreted it that way is like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's just, that's beyond a stretch. So I'm going to skip a little bit more of this because obviously, you know, you get the idea of what's going on with Genesis is everything is just, all of the Genesis stuff is actually just the aliens. The flood I am a little bit more interested in. Because this involves a little bit more narrative, I feel like, than just a little bit more narrative storytelling than actually just the creation myth. So apparently, there was some military surveillance of Cain and Abel or something like that. This is...
Wow.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, at least from what he says of his own story, he doesn't say that. I mean, and maybe I missed something, but he doesn't really say that, like, oh yeah, the aliens told me all of this like verbatim, so they told me how to reinterpret it correctly. Like, at least as far as I could tell, I didn't see that. So it's like, where is he? Like, how aware is he that he's just pulling this out of his ass? You know?
He's definitely creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Because so eventually with this religion, did he get a lot of power over people, or was it more just like a wacky club? Like, I mean, you said that he had some wives and like one younger wife, so it seems like maybe he was taking advantage with power a little bit, but what was what were some of the results of all this?
So, oh goodness. Oh, actually, I should probably look on this one for that. So, like, as far as information about how far the religion itself has gotten.
Yeah, I guess I'm talking about it as if it were past tense, but it's currently happening, right? He's alive?
Yeah. As well, I think so, actually. Now I'm not sure. I should probably check that.
Yeah. Can you see the chat right now? Because I just realized I was never wearing my headphones, and I'm worried that the people watching might have like an echo. But if we're fine, then I won't.
Yeah, nobody said anything about that.
Okay.
Hold on. Now I'm trying to look and see.
Yeah, sorry if I threw you off.
No, I want to look more into this, and I've only done a kind of preliminary search into this. I am more interested in, how far this has gotten, for one thing. The most recent thing I see here is in 2009, the church announced plans for a new UFO land in Las Vegas. I also read on a different website that in 2010, Rael made a prediction about there being a lot in the near future, a lot more UFO sightings over China specifically, I think.
Wow. And how did that go?
I mean, I haven't heard of any UFO sightings, so there you go. What I am interested in, as somebody who is a little bit more interested in cults, is sort of looking into more of their hierarchy. Because there's definitely some culty vibes, and with the whole topless women thing, that definitely gives me like they're a sexually free movement that's been led by an old guy who married a 16-year-old. That's definitely setting off some red flags for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So women make up only a third of the membership of the church. In 1998, he established a new all-female group within the broader movement known as the Order of Rael's Angels. So they're supposed to be consorts of the Elohim.
Okay.
So my question is, how exactly is interesting. Apparently he's pro-trans rights because trans women are also allowed to be members, apparently.
Well, at least he acknowledges that trans women are women. So there we go. There's a
Yeah,
second.
that's fucking something.
It's like,
yeah.
Well, I don't think some of the stuff is that crazy. Like, it with the whole like free the nipple thing or topless women thing. It's like, boobs don't have to be a sex organ. That's a construct.
Yeah.
And I wonder, now I might want to look into why that happened. Like, why, like, how did women's breasts and not men's breasts become a sex organ when women's breasts were like, have always been for breastfeeding? So, like, how did that turn into a sex thing? Because, like, breastfeeding has nothing to do with sex.
Man, I wish I do.
I want to look into that. I bet there's some interesting history there. But, like, you know, that's not so crazy to me. The younger wife thing I don't like, obviously, because the power dynamics there. And
yeah.
But yeah, as if everyone's an adult, then I have a problem with some of that.
I guess I definitely wish that his wife had been an adult when he actually married her, but oh well, that's apparently she consented to it, apparently, but how much can a 16-year-old consent to being married to a Anyway, another key practice of Raelism is sensual meditation. Raelians are encouraged to take part in this guided meditation or visualization on a daily basis with the intent of transmitting love and telepathic links to the Elohim and achieving harmony with infinity. Okay. That definitely sounds like some
is that kind of similar to those people that can orgasm with just by like going to a certain place in their head? Like,
like tantric sex?
Is that what it's called? Is it similar to that? Where, because like some people supposedly can just like get themselves to orgasm by thinking hard enough, which is fascinating.
I think that's fascinating too.
They've done like brain scans of these people and they are actually having an orgasm. So I don't know if that's just a crazy power of suggestion, or what that is. But is that what it is? Or is it just some sort of
I don't know
stuff?
I don't know. I can't tell very much from this little bit if that is the case. But it sounds like it could be at least similar.
Yeah.
It's definitely at least similar to that. Or I think that's what they're trying to achieve, is some sort of cosmic meditation orgasm.
Yeah.
At least that's what it seems like.
Yeah, and then with it being such a seemingly sex-oriented religion, it's interesting that there's not a good ratio of men to women. Like, it doesn't, I mean, that doesn't look good if you're trying to pair people up,
right?
Unless you're going like 2 men per woman or something. I don't know.
I really want to know more about this whole thing, because there's like some wacky interesting beliefs as well. Like, they're definitely like transhumanists. Like, they think that cloning is the future for humanity, essentially.
Why would that be, though? How is that better than just like reproducing?
I have no idea. Interesting.
It almost seems like an eclectic collection of things that people just find fascinating, entertaining. Like, Meditation, sex, cloning, aliens, like those are things that like people are drawn to because they're interesting. They're like abnormal stimuli, right? So it seems like maybe it's just like, I don't know. I feel like that's something that would draw a bunch of nerds. Like,
yeah, I definitely get that feeling, especially since it advertises itself as intelligent design for atheists. Like, that is how this advertises itself. It says so right on the website. Raelianism movement, intelligent design for atheists. Like, that
that's
is
an
how.
interesting way to promote it too, because it's like
Yeah.
usually to appeal, if you're trying to appeal to atheists, you don't want to use that kind of vernacular, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Intelligent design is like, ooh, no.
and if you're trying to appeal to spiritual people, you don't use the word atheism. So it's like, who is this attracting? This is attracting people that just want to be really different and unique, I guess, like spiritual atheists, which I would say there's, even as an atheist myself, there is some things that I partake in that I would call maybe spiritual, even though I don't necessarily believe that there's a God behind the spiritual experiences. What am I trying to say? Like, I would say there's practices that I partake in that could be considered spiritual, but I don't actually think there's any deeper meaning behind them. I just enjoy them still anyways because I'm still human.
Yeah, and I think that that's, I mean, like, fine. Their whole, oh wow, this is probably not stuff that is allowed to go on my YouTube.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
Quick before you get demonetized.
Yeah. Oh well. But anyways,
that looks fascinating though. Maybe we could do like a Patreon version.
Yeah, it's very pro-sex, which is fine. But I that seeing that definitely makes me wonder, if we dig into this, what kind of scandals are going to come out? Probably.
Yeah, because it's.
But I mean, they also believe that they need to that we need to reach world peace so that Elohim can come back to Earth. So, need to do that. Femininity is love. Oh, I'm sure that I would have some things to say about. I don't like when people. I'm not about that.
I'm not about what? Like,
I'm not about people defining femininity as love and softness and blah blah blah, because I mean, to me, femininity and masculinity are social constructs anyway. But it doesn't. It's just very restrictive on, because you can say femininity is great, but it is also limited to these things, and if you're not that, you're not feminine.
Yeah. Which there's a lot of men that have like compassion and like tenderness that might be categorized by some people as feminine, but it's like, who decided that when there's so many men that are capable of those traits,
Right. Well, I don't want love to be something that is inherently not masculine. That's kind of terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, world peace and nonviolence are part of their thing. So I'm a little less worried about, the same way people have asked me, if the Jehovah's Witness cult is dangerous. And I kind of am like, not to anybody who's outside the group, really. Yeah. I mean, if you're like my dad recently was in, he was in ICU and he was in critical condition, and I was really worried because he was in critical condition because of blood loss. And I was really worried that if it came down to him getting a blood transfusion or not, that he was just going to die. Fortunately, it didn't come to that. But that is a way in which that particular cult can be dangerous to its members. They are, however, also very staunchly nonviolent.
Yes.
So although there have definitely been many cases of them not protecting their members from violence within the organization,
Mhm.
like domestic abuse, that kind of thing. But they, as a group, promote nonviolence.
Mhm.
So it's like, is it a dangerous cult in a like physical danger kind of way? No, probably not. You're probably not going to ever see them militarize or anything like that. And
Mhm.
I kind of get the same sense from this group.
Yeah, and if you scroll up, I think it said mutual respect, which would hopefully
Mm-hmm.
mean like consent with all the sexual stuff that goes on, but
Mm-hmm.
or respect for others.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's like without actually like going and checking this out, there's no way to know how all of this actually manifests in reality.
Right. Right,
But
because there's a lot of things that they can claim are part of their value system that aren't actually being practiced, or they redefine those values to fit, like, because Jehovah's Witnesses claim to be all about love, but they also call shunning loving.
yeah,
So, like, you can say that you respect others and you love others, but if you are but if actually internally you redefine those words to mean something else other than what people largely think of, then you can say whatever you want, but that doesn't really indicate what's actually going on.
totally. And there's stuff like that in like the the type of Christianity that I grew up into. It wasn't Jehovah's Witness, but it's like there are scriptures that say at a certain point to just kick somebody out of your church, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
it's in there too. I was gonna say it's interesting now that you point out about the cult that you were in, how it was really more only a danger to the people who were in it or who still are in it.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like that is more regularly the case with cults, right? I've actually haven't even heard of a cult that has harmed other people. Well, I've heard of religions that have harmed other people, like larger religions,
Mm-hmm.
but the smaller cults, like have you heard of a smaller cult that has been violent, or is it like
I am vaguely aware that Scientologists are pretty ruthless because you don't
physically
have
violent?
uh it can I don't think that is as common, but I think that I don't remember the specifics, so I can't say yes with certainty. But I also remember there was one of the cults that the members all ended up poisoning themselves. They ended up killing a politician, I think, who came and visited their compound because he was going to go back out and tell the world what he saw. So
Oh,
they killed him before he left. And
is
of
that the
course,
Jonestown one or a
I
different
think it
one?
was. I think it was. I think it
Yeah,
was.
that's
But
interesting.
yeah, and that's really not as common. It's usually a lot more dangerous to the people that are in it. You're right. Cults generally are more dangerous to the people on the inside than they are to people on the outside.
Hmm.
Because those are the people that are being controlled, are the people
Right.
inside.
Right. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just so. Yeah, I would love to get to be able to talk to someone who has been inside this group to
Yeah.
uh, because it's like there's only so much judgment I can make based on what I'm seeing from the outside. I I think that would be really interesting. And I think that if I do end up getting a hold of somebody who has been on the inside who wants to come on the channel and talk about it, I would love for you to come back as well to help with that interview, because obviously
Oh,
your insights on this have been great.
thanks. Yeah. Actually, it's funny you bring that up because I have regularly thought about a cult that's nearby my house where I was like,
Oh,
if COVID wasn't happening, I don't know if this is ethical or not. So that's why I think about it quite a bit because I'm like, would this be okay to do? Basically, in order to kind of see what goes on slash try to help the people who are inside of this cult near me, My idea would be to partake in, because they invite people to come to like their, I guess you would call them like Bible study nights, but it's a little different. It's like, I think they're like campfires. So I think there's music. I'm definitely sure there's music. And so I'm like, if COVID wasn't happening, I would definitely go. I would definitely want to go, but I just don't know if it's ethical to go, because it's like, if I'm going, then I'm kind of deceiving them by saying that I like want to partake, when really I want to find out more information. So it's kind of like investigative journalism, but like I'm kind of deceiving people. So I don't know. I'd have to have like a lot of conversations with some really smart people about what's ethical there. Cause like you could be potentially helping them, right? If you raise awareness about what goes on inside of the cult, and then more people can like intervene. But then I don't like to be deceptive. I really am not a fan of lying. So
I will say, I don't think I would necessarily consider it unethical, at least from the Jehovah's Witness perspective. For example, if they were to offer you a Bible study and you accepted it basically for the sole purpose of using SE or something like that to try to talk to them, the only thing is they are so strictly programmed to do to conduct those studies in such a specific way that it doesn't leave a lot of room for that type of thing. So I don't know how successful it would be.
Yeah.
But that's experience from my own cult. I don't know if the one that is by your house would be similar. I definitely get the feeling that if it's anything like with the witnesses, if they feel like they're not making progress with you, they're going to drop you.
Yeah. Interesting. That's fascinating too. So Jehovah's Witnesses, if they don't feel like it's happening on their timeline, they're just like, nope, like not good enough.
It's not even that it's not happening on their timeline, just that if they don't have those discussions for the sake of having discussions, and they don't pretend to. Their goal is to preach, their goal is to convert. If that's not happening, then it's a waste of time. If they get the sense that, somebody that they are talking to, that they're preaching to, is just kind of listening for the sake of conversation, but not really listening, they probably won't spend as much time on it. They might still pursue it a little bit just in case a door opens for them where they feel like they actually can get in, but not out. I mean, if they feel like their Bible study or return visit or whatever is only mildly interested, they're probably not going to put that much work into it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had Jehovah's Witnesses come to my house when I was in my senior year of high school. And I think it was a course of like 4 visits. And it was basically, so I was super evangelical at that point. Like my plan was to just be a missionary. I would have gone off and just been a missionary right out of high school if my parents had let me. But thankfully, they made me go to college. And yeah, so basically I would like bake them cookies, and we were both sitting out on my front porch, like trying to convert each other. But yeah, it was about like, I think it was only like 4 times probably at the most that we
And then they
talked.
stopped showing up.
Yeah, I think actually I went away to college, and they came by and interacted with my mom, and basically just left my mom their card so I could like text them or call them or something. Because I think they didn't want to bother with my mom. They knew that like that was going to happen. So
they definitely know how to prioritize. They can tell when somebody's not really going for it. They just don't bother.
So what's their justification for that? Like, don't cast your pearls before swine kind of business, or?
Not just that, but they're pretty sure the end of the world is coming, and they don't have time to waste on people that clearly don't have the right mindset or right heart condition or whatever to accept the truth. Like, if it's obvious from the get-go that person doesn't want nothing to do with them, then they're like, okay, we'll find someone who does.
Interesting. Yeah.
But then, oh, good.
Oh, sorry. So, yeah, I think you and I just need to have way more conversations, because if you find someone that's like Raelian, or let's say I interact with some of these cult members in this cult over near me, like it'd be interesting to know what kinds of little seeds helped you on your way out, so that maybe I could try to not recreate it in like a manipulative way, but like whatever was helpful for you to like rationalize better, you know, or like increase your skepticism and critical thinking. Like, yeah. So basically, I'm asking you, like, you can tell me now or in another chat, but I'd want to know kind of how you started to realize that what you believed wasn't true.
I didn't really question until I was already like disfellowshipped, because I was just, you know, I was raised in it. I was devout, but I was also, you know, bi, and that was kind of just, and I just was sort of living a lie. And I also just, I have ADHD. It's hard enough to get myself to do things that I actually want to do, let alone all of the boring reading, studying, meditating that is required as a Jehovah's Witness. So I felt constantly like I wasn't doing good enough. And on top of that, that there were things outside of the group that I wanted to be doing. Right. So it wasn't until after I was like actually excommunicated that I actually started thinking about those things and was like, huh, that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. You had to be outside of that environment for a while then. And like your needs weren't, it stinks because your needs weren't being met. And it's unfortunate that you got kicked out, but at the same time, like it kind of ended up being a good thing for you.
Yeah, I don't regret that at all. No.
Yeah, but it sucks because if somebody feels like their needs are being met in a cult, then they don't even have an incentive or a reason to question it, right? Because it's like they're getting everything that they want. And then, but then it's sad because then there are people that aren't getting their needs met that are trapped by an ideology. So, gosh, it's so messy and complicated. It's like, yeah. Anyways, I'm just thinking out loud at this point.
No, it's okay. I like hearing your thoughts. But I was just thinking with the Raelian movement, it's interesting because it seems very obvious to us that that really his story, Rael's story, is not any more reliable than like Joseph Smith. You know, like it's just him saying, I had these visions, I had this weird experience, and now I know these things. And I wrote this book, and that's all he pretty much has to go off of. It's not any more credible than any other religion just because it doesn't involve a god. Like, it's not any, it may well be possible that aliens did in fact like populate the earth, like they started the whatever the proto cells were that eventually or
didn't Dawkins like say that in the heat of a moment one time? I think he said that in the heat of a moment one time, like someone was really pressing him, like, how did the first cell get
it's like
Dawkins, but don't
like, hell, it might be aliens. And that's the thing, is like it could be, like, we don't know, it could be, but like even if that were the case, this story, this version of things is obviously not credible.
Right. Obvious to us, but if that's the funny thing about the human mind, is that if you're in the right spot emotionally, or it's just the only information that you have, then it seems believable because we base things off of the information that's available to us. That's how it all works.
Yeah. And just because his reinterpretation of other holy texts is interesting, because it is. I think that reinterpreting the Bible as like having aliens be in place of this god figure is fascinating. But that doesn't make it more true just because it's kind of an interesting thought.
It must just be more appealing, because I don't think people a lot of times base their decisions off of what's true, obviously, because there are lots of, how do you say, interesting people out there. But we base our decisions off of what's appealing more often, I think, right? That's what bias is. It's like the things that we want to see, the
Mhm.
things we want to believe, the things that make us feel comfortable.
Mhm. And
So
especially if this religion that has an interesting belief system also comes with these progressive ideals that you're like, I can get behind that. That is even more incentive to be like, yeah, I can get behind this because it feels more true because they support things that you already believe.
yeah, like if you don't want to wear a bra. And it's like, yeah, of course it was aliens because I want to take my top off.
That adds up. That adds up.
Makes sense. Actually, you know what? I'm starting to buy it now.
No, no, no.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I am definitely going to have to do some further digging into this group, and I am going to try to find somebody who maybe has been part of this group that wants to talk about their experiences, because that's I want to get into it. I want to know what's going on. I've watched a lot of Netflix documentaries about a lot of cults, and I want the inside scoop, damn it.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on.
Yeah. Do you read up on it too? Like, do you look into the psychology of it, or are you more on the documentary end of things?
I am somewhat interested in the psychology. I mean, having had that psychology happen on my own brain, I guess I kind of already know what that looks like. It's like I don't know the exact terms
Right.
for all the things, but it's like since I've had it happen to me, I kind of know what I'm looking at, even though
Yeah.
I don't have the words, the psychological jargon to articulate it.
You might just use different terminology talking about the same kind of thing. You're in school right now, yeah?
I actually am not right now.
Oh. For some reason I thought you were. Sorry.
Everybody assumes I am, and that's fine. If you think that I'm smart, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, college is awesome though. I highly recommend it if you get the chance, but it's really
I would love I actually took a semester and ended up dropping out like way back when, like as soon as I graduated from high school. And ever since then I've wanted to go back because I enjoyed all of the classes except for the one that I failed. So
yeah, of course. Well, and you might have failed it because it just wasn't interesting to you. I mean, maybe it was
there
hard.
were other circumstances. I was not. Well, I'll say it was like more than 50% of the class dropped out and failed that semester. It was a very difficult course, and the teachers were not very good.
Oh,
But it just discouraged me at the time. And now I'd really like to go back to school. I just have no idea what I'd go to school for and where I'd go. And it's like, yeah, I intend to go back at some point, but who knows when or for what.
Yeah. Yeah. It's too bad that you can't just pick only classes that you're naturally curious about, because it wasn't like I did okay in college in my lower like general ed,
Mm-hmm.
and then in my upper division I got like really good grades because I was actually interested in it. And like,
Because it was all stuff that you actually were like, this is what I came here for.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's too bad. I mean, I get somewhat general ed, but at the same time,
Yeah.
long-term memory is repetition, so you forget most of it anyway. So they might as well just let you learn what you want to learn, because the things that you need you're going to remember from repetition anyway. So
yeah. All right. Well, as far as I can, we have pretty much exhausted this subject as far as just preliminary surface stuff that we could find easily. I'm with a more in-depth look. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it was lovely having you on, Autumn. Tell the people again where they can find you.
I'm at the YouTube channel Notes from Autumn, and then my handle's the same for like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It's just Notes from Autumn. Super easy to find me.
Your Twitter and your YouTube channel are both linked in the description. So if you guys want to find Autumn there and subscribe, please do. She's awesome. And definitely check out that video again that I recommended at the start. I don't remember. What was the name of it? What was the title of it?
Angry Atheist versus Neutrality.
Yeah, that was it. And that was the first video I watched of Autumn's that I was like, this is a fascinating take. I love it. that is all we have for you today. I hope everybody enjoyed this video. And thank you so much, everybody in the live chat who has been contributing to the conversation and just talking. Like, I don't know, just having other people's input and just like saying like, oh yeah, I agree with that, or that's interesting, or I actually have a different thought about that. Like, just keep the conversation going. Always keep the conversation going. All right. That's it from us. I am X Cult Baby, reminding you to go free yourself. Thank you for watching.